A mother's most basic instinct is to protect her flesh and blood.
Mothers are nurturing, they're protective.
They are supposed to keep them from harm.
Can't you just plan and roll?
This child would have been frightened out of his mind.
To put them before money.
$50,000 means more to a sociopath than their children.
Or men.
This was a woman who was out for revenge. She used those children to get back at the men that she was angry with.
These deadly women break that sacred bond when they kill their own. Summer 1996. The peaceful community of Rowlett, near Dallas, Texas, is shattered by an unimaginable crime.
There was a lot of human carnage, lots of blood.
Two young brothers are viciously stabbed in the sanctuary of their own home.
Damon, call 911. I've dealt with some of the worst, and it's still hard for me to comprehend the mind that would lead to this kind of horrific crime.
Darlie, bring it. Someone just stabbed my children.
It is a shocking home invasion that stuns Rowlett. The victims are a young, successful, law-abiding family. No one can fathom what the motive could be. By their mid-20s, teenage sweethearts, Darren and Darlie Routier, are leading enviable lives.
We're going to Cancun this weekend.
We are going to Cancun. It's going to be fantastic.
To the world, she looks like she has everything. She has all the trappings of wealth. She appears to be happy.
Seriously?
Oh, in some gorgeous little resort.
It's not a little resort. It's a five-star hotel.
Only the best for me.
Oh, of course. You will.
Thanks to their profitable computer company, they are rich and enjoy flaunting it.
Oh, thank you, baby. You're so good to me.
Oh, yeah. Did I forget to mention?
Darren is in awe of his wife
They're just great.
and of her expensive, man-made enhancements.
It's worth every cent, let me tell you.
She was quite buxom, and Darren just loved that about her.
I'm pretty happy with them.
Oh,
He would say, "Isn't Darlie beautiful?" And he would even mention her breasts to them.
It's great. You look so beautiful.
It smacks of me, look at me. It was overdone. And yet for her, it seemed okay.
But when the children come along, Darlie can no longer hog the limelight.
Damon was 5, Devin was 7. They loved to play, they had friends, they loved going outside. Great kids.
Mom, can you come back with us?
I'm busy.
The birth of their third son, Drake, makes Darlie a full-time, stay-at-home mom.
I don't really care what you've done.
And she resents it.
I'm busy. Can't you just plan and roll?
Darren is the caring parent.
Darren was, I think, a very involved father. He really, truly loved those two boys.
Hello, my little Mr. Spider-Bite.
How you doing?
The more attention Darren gives the boys, the more resentful Darlie becomes.
Playing with the toys. Hey, Mom. What's the matter with you?
Well, you go and say hello to the boys first.
What's the matter with you?
I think Darlie had a certain amount of jealousy that Darren paid more attention to the boys than he did to her.
All right. I've been stuck here in this house all day with these boys screaming and whining at me.
Where's your baby? They're just playing.
I'm going to get some peace.
Baby, I was working today. What do you want me to do?
She always was trying to portray this happy face. I love being a mother. We have the perfect life. When just the opposite was true. There were a lot of problems behind the scenes with them.
And then her life gets worse.
Darlie, honey, what's this?
I don't know. What is it?
It's something you bought. It's something we can't afford.
You know.
The Routiers' business is no longer booming.
You just keep spending money like it's water.
Well, you know I need nice things.
Their lavish lifestyle is slipping away.
There was just a lot of strain. The Jaguar was broken. He was having to take her car. She was left alone with the children at home. There was a lot of stress at that time.
I just long for the day when you had no obligations.
When Darlie looks for someone to blame for her predicament, she doesn't look far.
She had some postpartum depression after Drake, the youngest, was born.
Postpartum depression is a very, very real thing. And in her mind, which isn't right, the depression is being caused by the babies.
Darlie is trying to find a way out. She's trying to find her freedom. How can she achieve that?
In her mind, there is only one way.
Baby, I'm sorry about before.
Yeah, well, I'm just sick of not being able to spend our money.
You can't spend
Darlie Routier's picture-perfect life is falling apart.
Get us out of debt, and then I'll be fine.
She and Darren are spending every dime that they're making out there. They're living, as they say, they're living large.
The glamorous mother of 3 is depressed, in debt,
I'm just gonna stay down here with the boys, okay?
and constantly arguing with her husband, Darren.
Her life was falling apart. And these stressors all came into play until they finally just exploded that evening.
"2 a.m., June 6th, 1996. Darlie is sleeping in the family room with her 2 eldest sons.
The 2 boys are laying on the carpet near her. They're probably fallen asleep at this point. It's late at night.
Darren is upstairs with baby Drake.
She actually gets a knife out of the kitchen. She approaches the boys. I believe that she killed Devin first.
She struck with such a severe force with a knife that the blade went through his body, through the carpet, the pad, and hit the concrete below.
Darlie then turns on 5-year-old Damon.
Damon was stabbed near Devon, but he then got up, struggled, and was moving toward, I believe, the staircase.
He crawled 15 feet towards the front door, where they believed that he was struck again.
This child would not have lost consciousness immediately and would not have died immediately. He would have seen the person who was stabbing him and, in all likelihood, would have been frightened out of his mind.
Darlie now tries to protect herself from suspicion.
Darlie went into the kitchen, she took that knife, and she slit her own throat.
Darlie was trying to create everybody's biggest fear, the big, bad boogeyman who comes and kills your children, or you, or both.
Darren! Darren!
Devin! Devin! Call 911!
That was one of the strangest 911 calls I've ever heard.
Someone just came into my house and stabbed me.
One of her children, Damon, is still breathing. He is still struggling for his life.
I thought about it, and he dropped the knife, and I picked it up.
And yet in that call, she makes no mention of him, but she starts to talk about possible forensic evidence, fingerprint evidence that may be found out there.
And if I hadn't done that, he could have got prints.
When people are calling information into the police, they tend to not reveal anything more on the phone than get over here as quickly as you can.
Come quickly.
Darlie talked too much.
The brutal and senseless murders shock the Rowlett community. So too does the bizarre performance Darlie stages for the media just 1 week after the murders.
One of the boys would have turned 7 the following week, and so she decided to have a birthday party at the cemetery where the boys were buried.
How could a mother, a week after the murders themselves, how could she be out there smiling, laughing, and shooting silly string?
She was dressed inappropriately, and yet, for her, that was okay. It makes it kind of easy to understand, perhaps, why she killed her children.
Investigating police officers are also having doubts about Darlie. David Neighbors is the commander of the crime scene unit.
Things just didn't add up. We were there for 13 days, and as we collected evidence, it wasn't matching her story.
Investigators soon conclude the home invasion is a staged event.
In all of my career as a prosecutor, I had never seen a burglar take the time to make a perfect T-cut in a screen such as this one.
Darlie claims she chased the intruder.
I'm told that Darlie has run through the kitchen barefoot. There's broken glass on the floor of that kitchen, and yet she has no cuts to the bottom of her feet.
The murder weapon is one of Routier's own knives.
The intruder supposedly left the knife behind, disarmed himself while he was being chased by one of his victims. I've never seen it done. I've never heard of that being done again.
Just as suspicious as the crime scene are Darlie's wounds.
She had what I would call superficial wounds compared to the other two victims because they had deep penetrating stab wounds to the chest, meant to kill.
Darlie Routier is arrested and charged with the murder of her 2 children. Darren refuses to believe she did it.
Her husband was there for her. He testified at trial, and he continued to support her throughout this.
Darlie is found guilty of 2 counts of capital murder. The jury sends her one last message when they hand down their verdict.
The jury had placed the pictures of those 2 boys in such a position that Darlie Routier had to sit there and look at the 2 boys' pictures as that verdict was announced.
Darlie lives on death row, awaiting her execution.
How can you wake up one day and kill both your kids? I don't know how you can do that. But some way she reasoned that she could.
Our society tends to think having children and raising children is it. But it isn't for everybody. And it wasn't for Darlie.
Let's go to bed.
Every child relies on their mother's love to keep them safe and warm.
She had not really very much feeling for them at all.
A parent always puts their children first.
Okay, come on, time to go to bed.
To do that to your children, I can't think of any reason for that.
Unless they're more valuable dead. Houston, Texas, in 1987. An all too common scene plays out.
Where the hell you been? You're out late.
Get lost. I don't
Young
care.
parents with 2 young children
Don't care about me. What about your kid?
struggling with life and each other.
Frances had no breaks in life. She didn't have a good education, and she became a mother when she was still a child herself.
Is there any money?
No, there's no money. Business is bad right now.
Frances Newton is 15 when she has her son, Alton, and a few years later, daughter, Farah. It's too much, too soon. Now she and husband Adrian fight constantly.
He was violent. She was violent. He sold drugs. She took drugs. What was ever for there to be happy about? What future was there?
Frances soon finds something to be happy about. A lover. Hoping he can bring the new life she wants.
Let's go away together. Somewhere nice.
Pretty soon she moves in with him, leaving her children with her estranged husband. The couple is heading for a divorce. And Frances tells family she's scared of her husband, Adrian. She confides in her cousin.
Hey, girls.
Hey, Frances.
Hey.
What's happening, girl?
Oh, well, Adrian and I, we've been fighting a lot lately. I don't want there to be trouble. I don't want another fight.
She stayed there just a short period of time.
Thanks, girl.
And then she asked her cousin to go back to the apartment with her.
Can you come home with me? Sure, girl. Bye. Bye.
The children were at the apartment with her husband at the time.
On April 7th, 1987, the girls are in for a shock.
That's fine. And I'll fix you a drink and thing to eat. Oh, one's fine. It's only a little wet moment, so. Hi! Francis? What happened to
Her husband was shot while he was asleep on the couch because his body was found on the couch lying face up, indicating that there had not been any struggle. The children were in a bedroom together. Both of the children were asleep and they both were shot.
It's a nightmare.
You're talking about a baby's clothing that was covered in blood. And the little boy's clothing was covered in blood. And it was just really something that was heartbreaking.
Has Frances's violent husband killed her children? And then himself? Or has an intruder wiped out her family? The truth is far stranger. In the spring of 1987, in Houston, Texas, 21-year-old Frances Newton and her cousin discover a shocking crime. Murder-suicide? Intruder? Or something else?
The cousin informed the police that Frances had been acting oddly. Before she went back to the apartment, she was telling them, you know, you just never know when you might not see a loved one again.
You know, you should never leave your family without letting them know you love them.
That's it, girl. You have to tell them.
Amen. I mean, you just never know when you might see your loved one again.
Frances does something else odd.
See, I saw her put this down.
The cousin saw Frances hide a bag in a house next door to the relative's house.
And there is something nobody knows. Frances has taken out life insurance on her family.
Hi. These are the insurance policies y'all sent out. They're all done.
She took one out for herself and one out for her daughter, who was less than 2 years old, and one out for her husband.
You got them all?
That's Ferris and Adrian's as well.
Each policy was $50,000.
He signed it. He just can't come in today. He's working.
She forged her husband's name on the life insurance policy.
Well, thanks. I'll have a good look at this and I'll get back to you.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Goodbye.
The policies are Frances's secret for now. But the police have the stashed bag, and inside of it, a gun.
Ballistics testing showed that the bullet from each body was fired from the gun that Frances hid next door to the relative's house, the same gun that had been taken from her boyfriend's apartment.
It doesn't take long to piece together the real story. Frances visits her family to cash in some life insurance and waits until they take a noon nap.
She lacked education in every area of her life. And so 50,000 was like a treasure chest of gold coins. Like the pirates in the movies, it was everything.
With every shot, Frances thinks she's scoring another 50 grand.
She shot them very quickly in succession, one after the other.
She thought killing them would bring her the money she wanted, followed by the life she wanted.
As if no one would notice, Frances tries to claim the insurance payouts.
Hello, police?
Just 2 weeks after the murders.
A lot of people who do have insurance policies on their children don't want to cash them in. Not Frances.
Yeah, I've been reading about this.
A company representative calls police.
Yeah, and I have this woman named Frances. Yes, Frances Newton. She came in.
Frances Newton's escape from the everyday pressures of a young family comes to an abrupt end.
There was just really overwhelming evidence because of the murder weapon, because of her hiding it belonging to her boyfriend, the insurance policies. I mean, you really could not get much stronger evidence than that.
Frances Newton is found guilty of capital murder and sentenced to death. She spends 19 years on death row and manages to keep her true crime secret from cellmates.
It was smart for Frances to keep her mouth shut and never admit that she killed her own children, or one of the other death row inmates might have killed her.
In the end, the state of Texas kills Frances by lethal injection in September 2005.
I think Frances was capable of further murders. If they crossed that line to kill their baby and their young child for really no reason other than money, if you cross that line, no telling what other lines you're capable of crossing.
When a woman turns on a man,
By far the most shocking case I've ever dealt with.
the consequences can be unpredictable.
She did the worst possible thing she could do.
Now, here's your host, Johnny.
San Marcos, California, 1997. It's another afternoon of alcohol and drugs for Susan Eubanks. She uses them to mask her pain, as she has from an early age.
Susan Eubanks got a rough start in life. It was an alcoholic family. There was physical abuse, emotional abuse, and according to Susan, there was also a lot of sexual abuse. And she married young. probably just to get out of the house.
But Susan has no luck in love. Her 2 marriages have failed. She now has 4 sons with 2 different fathers to raise on her own.
What are you doing home? Don't speak to me like that.
Most of the time, Susan relies on her oldest son, 14-year-old Brandon, to bring up his 3 brothers.
We see this in families that are chaotic. The oldest child takes on responsibility, parental responsibilities for taking care of the younger children.
In the fall of 1997, Susan has a new boyfriend, Renee. He moves in. Renee will soon realize having a relationship with Susan isn't easy.
She had to have a man in her life. She was unemployed, she needed income, and she needed someone to help her raise her 4 boys.
One Sunday, Susan wants to go out drinking.
The bar. You said we were going to the park. We need some alone time. Get over it.
She leaves her 4 young children and their cousin, who's visiting, home alone.
Susan believed the opposite of what most mothers believe. Susan thought her children were here for her, not that she was here for them.
It's still early on in Susan and Renee's relationship. But Renee is not attentive enough for Susan. She's deeply insecure and jealous. She senses he has wandering eyes. Susan is not prepared to be disappointed again.
Her sister had talked to her, and she had indicated that she was very anti-male that day.
You over there whoring with another woman, and I'm right here? I'm just being friendly. It's like I can't trust you.
All right, you know what? That's enough.
When Renee tells her he wants out, Susan loses it.
Yeah, well, let's see how full I am.
They left the bar and went home, and the fight continued.
You are not leaving me. You are not leaving me. I'll make everybody pay. You're not leaving me.
It was loud, it was physical.
Psycho! Done with You're not leaving me!
Renee wanted out of the relationship, and Susan was not going to let that happen.
That is, you can't take this.
You can't leave me.
To keep Renee from leaving, Susan makes an unimaginable threat.
I'll hurt myself.
So stop making stupid threats, Susan.
Yeah? I'll hurt the kids. I brought them into this world. I can take them out.
Don't talk like that, okay?
Renee doesn't take her seriously and tries to calm this wild woman, the only way he knows how.
To placate her, he suggested that they fool around, and they did. When she was still in the bedroom, he found an opportunity to leave and called the police to ask them to help him remove his property from the residence because I guess he expected there would be a scene.
When the police arrive, Susan is out of control.
Lying bastard. You're all the same, you lying bastard! Get off my property!
The neighborhood commotion brings Renee an ally who lives nearby. Someone who knows Susan's rage. Her estranged husband, Eric Eubanks, the father of her 3 youngest sons.
Eric helped Renee and drove him off in his car.
Renee's rejection is bad enough, but now a perceived conspiracy between the 2 men sends Susan over the edge.
Susan was just whirling into total violence and deliberation and premeditation.
Susan plans her revenge.
Susan writes to the fathers of the children, "You left me. You left me. Now you prepare yourself to lose what you love the most."
It's not just Renee and Eric in her sights. It's also her first husband, John.
It was just basically the ultimate betrayal.
Innocent lives are about to be caught in the crossfire.
It was just pure evil.
Susan Eubanks is white hot with rage when her boyfriend walks out.
You're not leaving!
It fuels her anger towards all men. She has already 2 failed marriages and is left with 4 sons.
Eric Eubanks, her estranged husband, had received a page that said, "Say goodbye." He had a restraining order against him. So he called the police and asked them to go and check on the welfare of his children.
It's urgent. It's an emergency. Something's happening.
But it will be too late. Susan has begun her deadly retribution, starting with her oldest, her first husband's son, Brandon.
She would have had to kill him first because he could have easily overpowered her, and he would have done anything to protect his brothers.
Susan moves on to her second husband's 3 sons.
You stay there. Just stay put.
The 3 remaining children were probably terrified out of their mind.
Stay put.
Austin was on the top bunk. One hit him between the bridge of the nose and the eye. There were other bullets that went through the window. We think that he was probably dodging the bullets when his mother was pointing the gun at him.
You stay there.
Susan's 2 youngest are forced to watch their mother reload.
She only had a 5-shot. She has 2 more victims. She could have stopped.
Stay put.
But there was no stopping.
Brigham was shot once on the right side by the ear and then on the back of the head. there was a muzzle imprint, so she put the gun right up to his head. Little Matthew, the 4-year-old, was found at the foot of the bed, and his gunshot wound went through the top of the head. He must have been in a fetal position.
Susan murdered her sons in the same order that they came into her life.
Only one child is spared. Susan's visiting nephew.
The fact that Susan did not kill her nephew, I believe, proves what her motive was all along: to break the heart and destroy the life of the fathers of those children. She had no beef with the father of the little boy that survived.
Next, Susan turns the gun on herself. But she doesn't plan to die.
Susan shot herself in the stomach, then called 911.
Help!
What she claimed to police was it was a murder-suicide. Her sons couldn't live without her, and she couldn't live. So she had to kill them and then kill herself.
Where are the children?
Susan's playing the sympathy card.
If she really wanted to commit suicide, that bullet would have gone in her head, not in her stomach.
She wanted to look their fathers in the eye so she could say to them, I took the most important thing away from you. How does it feel?
Susan Eubanks' plea for sympathy falls on deaf ears. In September 1999, she's sentenced to death and is currently awaiting execution in Central California Women's Facility. The tragedy is, Susan's insane quest for love leads her to killing those who loved her the most.
She executed those children and wiped away all their hopes and dreams just for the purpose of getting back at the men that she was angry with.
Susan Eubanks will be remembered as one of the coldest, most evil mothers that ever hit the face of the earth.
These deadly women broke the most sacred of bonds. Darlie Routier sacrificed her sons for attention. Frances Newton wanted money more than her family. And Susan Eubanks' war on men had innocent casualties. These women turned on their own flesh and blood. They were prepared to kill their own.